Dear members of the Specialized Academic Council, the applicant, those present, we're pleased to welcome you at our today's meeting. The one-time Specialized Academic Council, DF64L55L60 at Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics, with the right to accept for consideration and conducting the one-time defense of thesis by Chžan Цайджин for the Doctor of Philosophy degree in the field of knowledge L1 Education Pedagogy, in speciality L11 Educational Pedagogical Sciences, was established by the order number 72 of the 5th of March 2025 on the formation of a one-time Specialized Academic Council with the right to accept for consideration and conducting a one-time defense of the applicant's thesis for the purpose of awarding her the Doctor of Philosophy degree. The Specialized Academic Council, DF64L55L60, was registered in the information system of National Agency for Higher Education Quality Assurance on the 7th of March 2025. Message identification number is 25162. ID of the Specialized Academic Council is 8L34. The Specialized Academic Council of Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics, DF64L55L60, includes Chairman of the Council, Alexander Shumsky, Doctor of Pedagogical Sciences, Professor at the Department of Foreign Languages and Cross-Cultural Communication, Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics. Reviewers: Anna Polakova, Candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor at the Department of Pedagogy, Foreign Philology and Translation, Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics. Irina Gontarenko, Candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor at the Department of Pedagogy, Foreign Philology and Translation, Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics. Official opponents: Olena Chekratova, Doctor of Philosophy and Educational Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor at the Department of Practice of English, Oral and Written Speech at Grigoriy Skovoroda, Kharkiv National Pedagogical University. Oksana Volushina, Candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor at the Department of Pedagogy and Educational Management at Vinnytsia Mikhailo Kotyubinsky State Pedagogical University. Based on the attendance registration card of the members of the Specialized Academic Council, all members of the Council are present at the meeting. On the agenda, we have the defense of thesis by Chžan Цайджин for obtaining the scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the field of knowledge L1 Education Pedagogy, in speciality L11 Educational Pedagogical Sciences, held in a mixed format. The thesis theme is Pupils' Foreign Communicative Competence Formation in Non-Formal Education based on the application of the People's Republic of China. The work was done at the Department of Pedagogy, Foreign Philology and Translation, Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics. Research Supervisor Людмила Гризун, Doctor of Pedagogical Sciences, Professor at the Department of Pedagogy, Foreign Philology and Translation, Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics. And now, let us proceed to the announcement of objective data based on the documents submitted by the applicant to the Specialized Academic Council. They are as follows. Application form addressed to the Chairman of the Specialized Academic Council on conducting the defense. Copy of the first page of passport of a citizen of the People's Republic of China with an authorized translation. Copy of master's degree diploma in speciality English translation issued by Beijing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics, the People's Republic of China, with a certificate of recognition of a foreign document on education in Ukraine. Extract from the order of admission to postgraduate studies. Academic certificate of completing the relevant educational and scientific program. Research supervisor's conclusion. Extract from the protocol of extended meeting of the department at which the applicant's research results were publicly presented. Conclusion on the scientific novelty, theoretical and practical significance of the thesis results in two copies. Consent of the official opponents, reviewers, and the chairman to participate in the work of one-time specialized academic council. Reviewers' references, opponents' references, thesis text in electronic and printed form. Another printed copy is kept in the university library. Who has any questions on the above information? So, if everything is clear, the floor for presenting the main points of thesis is given to Chžan Цайджин. Please turn on your microphone and share the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Professor. I'll share the screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay.
We're listening to you. The floor is yours, please.
Okay. Distinguished Chairman, honorable members of the Specialized Academic Council, I would like to present the main points and results of my research on the topic pupils' foreign communicative competence formation in non-formal education based on the application of People's Republic of China. The relevance of this study is determined by importance of education for achieving sustainable development with an emphasis on globalization and informatization in this process. And the study is based on important legal documents that regulate the training of school children in a PRC in the conditions of formal and non-formal education. The conducted analysis of the document studies and the current challenges allow us to identify the three contradictions given below. The dissertation was completed in accordance with the research plan of the Department of Pedagogy, Foreign Philology, and the translation of the Simon Kuznets Kharkov National University of Economics. The subject of the study is the process of teaching foreign language to pupils in non-formal education institutions in the PRC. The subject of the study is the pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC in non-formal education institutions in the PRC. And the purpose of the study is to theoretically substantiate, develop, and experimentally verify the pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC in non-formal education. According to the purpose of this research, there were formulated 5 research tasks shown below. There were used several research methods like theoretical methods, structural analysis and modeling, factor criteria modeling, empirical methods, mathematical and statistical methods. This dissertation covers the introduction, 3 chapters, and the conclusion. Chapter 1 covers theoretically background of the formation of pupils' foreign communicative competence in terms of non-formal education at the current stage of social development. An analysis of psychological, pedagogical, and normative resources was carried out, which made it possible to identify the main direction of the development of modern society, the feature of the impact of globalization and digitalization on a sustainable development society. In terms of scientific novelty, the essence of the concept of a foreign communicative competence is clarified as the ability to effective dialogical interaction based on the comprehensive application of all components of communicative language competence taken into account in the choice of strategies and forms of communicative to achieve its goal. In addition, the structural component of the diversified competence is substantiated as linguistic, social linguistic, pragmatic, and practical activity components, and the results are published in these two articles. Besides, in terms of scientific novelty, the concept of blended learning and hybrid learning are clarified in the context of non-formal education in China, and the results are published in this article. The current potential of non-formal education and its role in a sustainable development society are analyzed. The feature of the formation of pupils FCC in terms of non-formal education in the PRC are identified, and the results are published in these three articles. Chapter 2 mainly covers pedagogical conditions of formation of pupils' foreign communicative competence in non-formal education institutions of the PRC. The terminological analysis was conducted, and the essential characteristics of the concept of pedagogical conditions were determined. And the concept of pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC was clarified as a complex of independent factors necessary for purposeful educational activities based on the use of information technology that ensures the effective formation of the specified competence of students, particularly in system of non-formal education in China, which also makes scientific novelty on the level of clarification. And the results are published in these two articles. In terms of scientific novelty, for the first time, it is scientifically substantiated the complex of pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC in non-formal education institutions in China should include the following three issues. The first one is targeted theoretical and methodological training of teachers, facilitators for the formation of FCC in terms of non-formal education. The second is the creation of a dynamic, interactive, value-oriented information educational environment that ensure flexible organization of the education process based on the blended learning. And the third one is application of a complex of means for stimulating pupils to dialogical communication in a foreign language. And the results are published in these two articles. Besides, in chapter 2, in terms of scientific novelty, for the first time, the model for pedagogical conditions implementation is built. The results are published in these two articles. The model of implementation of pedagogical conditions cover 4 blocks. Block 1 is methodological and goal block. It reveals the social conditionality of the problem, which is formed through its goal. The formation of pupils FCC in the condition of non-formal education in the PRC and contains scientific concepts, approaches, and principles. The second block is the content activity block of the model. It contains the content components of the study, the essence and structure of FCC, and the features of its formation in terms of non-formal education in the PRC. Defining this work, and the pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC substantiated above. And the third block is the procedural and the technological block. It reveals the aspects of the implementation of pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC in institutions of non-formal education in China, organizational, methodological, and technological. Organizational aspects covers planning, definition of the purpose of learning, selection of methods, means, and forms, selection of a flexible learning model corresponding to the current situation. Methodological aspects covers conducting training for teacher facilitators, filling and dynamic updating of all components of the information educational environment aimed at the formation of each structural components of the FCC in the complex. And the technological aspect covers development and the technological implementation of the structure of information educational environment, which provide a flexible learning model. The last block is a diagnostic and result block. It contains monitoring and expected research results. Monitoring is carried out based on a collimatric submodel of the implementation of pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC of non-formal education institutions in the PRC, which allows a quantitative analysis of the results and the pedagogical conditions implementation. In addition, in terms of scientific novelty in Chapter 2, it is further developed a technology of factor criteria modeling, and a collimatric submodel was also developed. And those results are published in this article. The collimatric submodel of this pedagogical conditions implementation was used as a tool for conducting monitoring procedures. Chapter 3 mainly covers experimental verification of the effectiveness of the implementation of pedagogical conditions for the formation of foreign communicative competence of pupils in non-formal education institutions in the PRC. The aim of this experiment was verification of the effectiveness of the implementation of pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC in non-formal education institutions in the PRC. The experiment included 3 stages. Stage 1 is the organizational and preparatory stage. It was aimed at preparing organizational, methodological, and technological aspects of pedagogical condition implement. Stage 2 is a procedural or formative stage where a survey and a SWOT analysis were conducted, and the developed pedagogical conditions were implemented. These 3 are the result stage, where measurements were carried out, data generalization and conclusions were prepared, and the methodological recommendations were developed. At stage 2, we conducted a survey to find out the views of English teachers and students attending non-formal education institutions in China on English, and a SWOT analysis was conducted on the survey results to identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. After organizational and technological preparations, the teachers in the experimental group were offered a training on the application of pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC. The training covers 4 core topics and designed for 1 credit. 10 hours were spent together by all the teachers and tutors. 20 hours were allocated for independent work by teachers. Besides, additional consolidations were conducted for the teachers too. During our training, particular emphasis was placed on practical training for teachers on the use of interactive technologies. Specifically, teachers were shown how interactive methods and could enhance typical blended learning activities, such as flipped learning, digital storytelling, gamification, and project-based learning, etc. So the teachers were equipped with specially designed practical cases. And then we used our collimatric submodel of the implementation of pedagogical to monitor the result of the experiment. As a result of the experiment, it was found that the experimental group, the level in the realization of the pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils as FCC is higher than the control group. And we also developed an additional collimatric submodel for determining the level of formation of pupils FCC according to the CERF levels, where the factors and the criteria were selected based on the pan-European recommendations on language education. And then based on the result of our research, a key component of these recommendations were given below. The first is key steps for teachers to form pupils FCC. The second is practical toolkit for foreign language teachers. And the third is a training program, design of educational activities for the formation of pupils FCC. Thus, the scientific novelty of this study include, for the first time, the pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC of non-formal education institutions of the PRC at the current stage of a sustainable development society are scientifically substantiated. A model for the implementation of pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC in the education process of non-formal education institutions of the PRC is theoretically substantiated, and methodological recommendations for the implementation of pedagogical conditions are developed. It is also clarified the definition of these concepts of foreign communicative competence, formation of foreign communicative competence, blended learning, hybrid learning, and pedagogical conditions. And it is further developed the technology of factor criteria modeling. The practical value of this research is confirmed by their implementation in the educational process of national and foreign education institutions, in particular in Simon Kuznets, Kharkov National University of Economics, Shijiazhuang Digital and Intelligence Education Technology Training School, Zhongchuan Xueyi Star Art Training School. And the conceptual framework and practical advancements presented in this dissertation can be practically applied by researchers, foreign language educators, educational administrators, participants in professional development programs, doctoral candidates, master's degree students, and experts in this area. All the provisions of this scientific novelty and the main results of the research are covered in 13 published scientific work. The conducted research does not exhaust all aspects of the problem, promising for further scientific research the issues of adaptation and dissemination of experience in implementing the developed pedagogical conditions in the educational system of Ukraine and other countries. That's all my report. Thank you for your attention.
We thank the applicant for a comprehensive report. And now, dear colleagues, I invite you to ask questions to the applicant. Олена Чехратова, Doctor of Philosophy in Educational Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor at the Department of Practice of English Oral and Written Speech at Григорій Сковорода, Kharkiv National Pedagogical University. Olena Andreevna, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. And I have got two questions. So the first one, what is the role of non-formal education in China? Why is it important to develop and improve this kind of education? That is my first question.
Thank you for your question, Professor. Non-formal education in China supplements formal education by addressing skill gaps and offering lifelong learning through private training centers, online courses, vocational programs, and communicative initiatives. Its key roles include the following 6. The first role is bridging education gaps by providing specialized training in foreign languages, vocational skills, and exam preparations. The second role is promoting lifelong learning. It can enable continuous skill upgrade to meet evolving job market demand driven by technological and economic changes. And the third role, I think, is supporting employment and economic growth by equipping workers with practical skills for IT or business and manufacturing sectors. The fourth role, I think, is enhancing global competence by developing foreign language proficiency and soft skills for international collaboration. And the fifth role is, I think, it can ensure flexibility and inclusion study by offering accessible, self-paced learning for diverse groups, including working adults, rural populations, and some rural communities. And the sixth role, I think, is it can foster the innovation by supporting entrepreneurship through programs in business and creative fields. I think that it's very important to strengthen non-formal education in order that it could fulfill its main roles. So non-formal education is a dynamic supplement for formal education, bridging skill gaps, advancing lifelong learning, and driving economic growth. Its sustained development is very vital to prepare individuals and society for a rapid enhancing world. That's all my answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the second question, what are the main peculiarities of foreign communicative competence forming in non-formal education institutions in China?
Thank you, Professor, for your question. The development of FCC in China's non-formal education sector is characterized by some key factors. I think the first feature is flexible learning paths. Learners customize courses with modular, self-paced structures. And the second feature, I think, is exam-focused training, emphasis on international certifications and exam techniques for listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The third role, I think, is the third feature is societal pressure and demand. You know, in China, high parental expectations drive early enrollment in language institutions, while middle class demand for multilingualism fuels sector growth. And the fourth feature, it's globalization and cultural adaptation. Cross-cultural communication training align with China's economic globalization, preparing students for international academic and business context. The fifth feature is practical skill-oriented approach. You know, institutions prioritize real-world communication skills over theoretical knowledge, tailoring programs to immediate applicants. And the sixth feature is interactive learning method, task-based learning, role-playing, stimulations, and native speaking in structures foster immersive environment to enhance communicative competence. And the last feature, I think, is technology integration. Digital platforms like VIP Kit, Duolingo, and others, AI-driven tutoring systems, and mobile apps personalize learning and provide instant feedback. So China's non-formal education institution complement formal schooling by combining practicality, technological innovation, flexibility, and exam readiness, equipping learners with global relevant language skills. Okay, that's all my answers. Thank you, Professor.
Olena Andreevna, are you satisfied with the applicant's replies?
Yeah, thank you. I'm satisfied.
Thank you. Oksana Voloshyna, candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor at the Department of Pedagogy and Educational Management at Vinnytsia Mikhailo Kotsubinski State Pedagogical University. Oksana Vasilyevna, please.
Thank you. I have got two questions too. The first question. One of the pedagogical conditions developed by you is the creation of dynamic interactive information educational environment. What are the structure elements of this environment? What are the main function of terms of forming the components of FCC? The first question.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Professor, for your question. in the process of our work, the structure of this information educational environment is in accordance with the components of this competence identified in Chapter 1. That include in linguistic, social linguistic, pragmatic, and practical activity components. So the information environment included three structures. The first one is information and technological elements. The second one is the motivational element. The third one is the communicative structure element. And their main functions in terms of forming the components of FCC is the first element, information and technological elements, aims to develop the linguistic components of the pupils' FCC by providing tools such as language stimulators, gamified environment for skill practice, translation programs, subject-specific foreign language resources, speech development tools, visualization softwares for cross-subject learning, subject-oriented stimulators, and open courses taught entirely in the target language. And the second element, the motivational element, which is a system of motivational factors for pupils, fosters the social, linguistic, and pragmatic components of FCC by engaging students in social, cultural sereness and subject-oriented tasks, encouraging dialogue, opinion sharing, and immersion in authentic language environment. And the last element is the communicative element. It can strengthen the practical activity component through online platforms hosting foreign language events and extracurricular peer interactions. This enables students to refine communication skills, collaborate internationally, and connect with peers, sharing common interests. We would like to underline that when integrating these structure elements of non-formal education environment, we have to ensure interconnectedness to create a cohesive macro environment where activities target specific FCC components effectively. Okay, that's all my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And the second question. Please explain the first pedagogical conditions and how it was implemented.
Thank you for your question, Professor. The first pedagogical condition is for forming FCC in Chinese non-formal institutions is targeted theoretical and methodological training of teachers, facilitators for teaching foreign languages. This condition aims to equip teachers with the necessary professional skills to create an effective learning environment and facilitate the development of pupils' FCC. How it was implemented? The teachers of the experimental group were offered training on the application of pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils' FCC and additional consultations on the creation of a purpose-active, dynamic, interactive, positive, and value-oriented, rich educational environment based on hybrid learning. In accordance with the defined goals, the following 4 tasks were set before the training. The first task is to systemize teachers' knowledge on the essence and structure of the FCC, the features of its formation, and the ways to assess its formation. The second task is to deepen knowledge of the methodology of teaching English based on a communicative approach and the use of complex means of stimulating pupils to dialogical communication in a foreign language. The third task is to systemize the understanding of the organizational and structure of the educational information environment created for the formation of pupils' FCC. the last task is to master the basic technologies for activating the formation of pupils' FCC in blended learning. And during the training, particular emphasis was placed on practical training of teachers on the use of interactive technologies in English classrooms. And students were encouraged to engage in dialogue and communication in a blended learning environment. Specifically, the interactive methods were demonstrated to teachers on how to enhance typical blended learning activities, such as flipped learning, digital storytelling, etc. And we provide teachers with specialized design cases. So this structured training transforms teachers into facilitators capable of creating dynamic, competence-focused language environment. That's all my answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oksana Vasilyevna, are you satisfied with the applicant's replies?
Yes.
Thank you. Anna Polякova, candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor at the Department of Pedagogy for Philology and Translation, Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics. Anna Anatolyevna, please.
Thank you. Dear Chžan Цайджин, I have two questions for you. The first, during the experimental study, you developed and used a volumetric submodel to detect the level of formation of the pupils' foreign communicative competence. Please comment on how the level of pupils' FCC changed after the implementation of the pedagogical conditions developed by you.
Okay, Professor, thank you for your question. In the experimental study, the detection of pupils' FCC formation levels through the developed colorimetric submodel demonstrated that the implementation of teaching conditions lead to a significant improvement in FCC levels among experimental group of pupils. According to the teachers who received teacher training, some indicators raised as a result of pedagogical implementation. In particular, first, linguistic component raised on average by 7%. Social linguistic component raised on average by 5%. Pragmatic component raised on average by 8%. Practical activity component raised on average by 6%. So the colorimetric submodel quantified the effectiveness of the implementation of pedagogical conditions, confirming that they have positive impact on the pupils' FCC development. That's all my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. And one more question. In terms of non-formal education, the used online learning platforms plays an important role. Have you considered them for the formation of foreign communicative competence? If so, which online learning platforms would you recommend it for implementation?
Okay, Professor, thank you for your question. In non-formal education, the application of online learning platforms was integrated as a critical component of blended learning. I have considered it and used within our practice of foreign language blended learning. And in the set of general online platforms and specific online tools of language learning in the FCC formation. In particular, first, I would recommend the general platforms. I use like Zoom and Tencent meeting. They are with real-time oral interaction and group discussion. And second, I will recommend the Coursera. It has structured language courses for self-paced learning. And second, as for the language-oriented online tools, I use and recommend first is Duolingo. It's from China. It has gamified designed to reinforce vocabulary and grammar. Second, I recommend the Quizlet. It has a vocabulary memorization and testing. And the last one I recommend is Flipper Grid. It promotes oral expression and video-based sharing. We could conclude that online platforms expand learning flexibility, diversity resources, and support personalized learning paths through data tracking. So, the above tools align with the blended learning framework and effectively complement traditional classroom to advance pupils' FCC formation. That's all my answer. Thank you.
Anna Anatolievna, are you satisfied with the applicant's replies?
Yes, I'm satisfied.
Okay, thank you. Irina Gontarenko, candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor at the Department of Pedagogy for Philology and Translation, Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics. Irina Sergeevna, please.
Thank you. Please give examples of interactive techniques which you implemented within blended learning to stimulate pupils to dialogical communication in English.
Okay, Professor, thank you for your question. In a blended learning environment, combining face-to-face instruction with digital tools, I have implemented several interactive techniques to stimulate dialogical communication in English. I'll give you some examples. The first example is the flipped learning discussion. For example, students watch video lectures at home, then practice by role plays in live sessions. It can enforce real-life language use, improve speaking, listening skills, and foster collaboration. The second example I want to give is gamified quizzes. We can use Kahoot or Duolingo. For example, competitive live quizzes with instant feedback and a leaderboard, which makes vocabulary or grammar review engaging and boost motivation through competition. The third example I want to give is collaborative digital storytelling. For example, groups create stories like Happy Holidays using Google Slides or SlideGo or Adobe Spark, followed by questions and answer sessions. It helps to develop writing, speaking skills, and teamwork. The fourth example I want to give is debate and a mini conference. For example, students research and argue opposing viewpoints on topics, then present in structural format, which will sharpen critical thinking, public speaking, and fluency. And next, the fifth example I want to give is breakout room role plays. For example, stimulated scenarios like in a restaurant orders with peer presentation afterwards. It provides authentic conversational practice and peer learning. The last example I want to give is project-based learning, PBL. For example, group research on English-speaking cultures, culminating in presentations and discussions, which enhance research collaboration and language skills. So these techniques integrate face-to-face and digital tools to create dynamic, interactive English learning experiences that prioritize real-world communication. That's all my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My second question. Please clarify the diagnostic and results block of your model of pedagogical conditions implementation.
Okay, Professor, thank you for your question. The diagnostic and result block evaluates the effectiveness of pedagogical conditions for developing FCC in Chinese non-formal education institutions, ensuring continuous educational improvement. It focuses on two aspects. First is students' competence monitoring, and the other is teacher implementation monitoring. First, for the students' competence monitoring aspect, we use a CERF-aligned collimatric submodel to assess communicative competence across 4 dimensions. The first dimension is the language competence. It includes vocabulary, grammar, phonics, social linguistic awareness, and pragmatic skills. The second dimension is receptive and productive skill, which include listening, reading, speaking, and writing. The third dimension is interpersonal interaction, which consists of conversations, discussions, negotiations, and presentations. And the last dimension is cultural awareness, which include navigating cultural context and intercultural communication. These are for the students' competence monitoring. And another aspect is teacher implementation monitoring aspect. Evaluate pedagogical practice by a collimatric submodel assessing in the following 4 aspects. The first is content preparation, alignment of materials with FCC goals. The second is methodology, effectiveness of teachers' techniques. The third is classroom management, fostering supportive environment and student interaction. The last one is self-reflection and development. Commitment to professional growth and reflective practice. So both submodels apply standard criteria, CERF-based for students and expert-defined for teachers, to ensure actionable insights for optimizing FCC development. That's all my answers. Thank you.
Irina Sergeyevna, are you satisfied with the applicant's replies?
Yes, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you. As for me, I also have some questions to the applicant. Chжан Цайджин, tell us please, what methodological recommendations you have developed for the implementation of pedagogical conditions in the tutoring process of non-formal education institutions in China?
Thank you for your question, Professor. Based on the results of our research, I give the following recommendations. The first recommendation is key steps for teachers to form pupils FCC. This recommendation outlines a step-by-step process for developing pupils FCC, ensuring that pupils acquire language skills in a structural and efficient manner. These steps include 5 steps. Step 1, needs analysis. Step 2, setting clear learning objectives. Step 3, interactive teaching strategies. Step 4, integration of cultural and intercultural components. Step 5, monitoring and assessment. The second recommendation is a practical toolkit for foreign language teachers. This recommendation provides a set of practical tools that assist teachers in structuring lessons, evaluating progress, and ensuring effective teaching outcomes. Some of these tools include SWOT analysis for language learning, SMART and GROW models for goal setting, monitoring and assessment systems. And the last recommendation is a training program for teachers. To ensure that the teachers effectively implement these methodologies, these recommendations include a professional and development training program for English teachers. There are some stages. Stage 1 is introduction to FCC. Stage 2 is implementation of communicative methods. Stage 3 is application of collimatric tools. Step 4 is adapting teaching strategies for different learning contexts. The last stage is reflection and continuous improvement. Therefore, These methodological recommendations provided a comprehensive and adaptable framework for developing foreign language communicative competence for pupils. By incorporating modern teaching models, structured goal-setting techniques, assignment tools, and professional training, they enable educators to create a highly effective and engaging learning environment. That's all my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. And one more question. Can these recommendations be used in educational systems of other countries, and whether they can be applied in the original form, or they must be adapted or modified in accordance with local realities?
Thank you, Professor, for your question. I think yes, these recommendations can be applied to other countries' educational system, but they may require adaptation based on linguistic, cultural, and pedagogical differences. You know, these recommendations provide practical tools for foreign language teachers, administrators, and education professionals to develop a pupils' FCC and enhance teachers' expertise. While universal applicable, they require contextual adaptation. How and why can they be adapted or changed? To ensure the effectiveness across different educational contexts, the recommendations should be adjusted in the following ways. The first way is curriculum alignment. Different countries have varied education standards and language proficiency frameworks. The recommendation must align with local learning objectives and assignment criteria. The second way, I think, is cultural and linguistic context. Teaching strategies should reflect the linguistic background of students. Cultural examples and references should be localized to make learning more relatable. And the third way is teaching method and technological integration. Countries with advanced education technology may integrate AI-driven tools, while others may rely on more traditional classroom techniques. Non-formal education institutions in some regions prioritize test preparation, requiring exam-oriented modifications. The fourth way is teacher training and professional development. The approach to teacher upskilling varies. Some countries emphasize practical teaching experience, while other countries focus on academic training. Training models should be adapted to meet the local professional development requirements. The last way is to student-centered learning approaches. In Western education systems, communicative and interactive methods are commonly used. In some Asian and Middle East countries, traditional teacher-centered methods are more prevalent. So gradual integration of active learning strategies may be needed. Thus, these recommendations provide a valuable universal principles, but the adaptation is essential for relevance in different education systems. Modifications should focus on curriculum alignment, cultural relevance, technological feasibility, and pedagogical traditions to ensure successful implementation worldwide. That's all my answers. Thank you.
Chžan Цайджин, thank you for your replies. I'm quite satisfied. Dear members of the Specialized Academic Council, do you have any other questions to the applicant? Okay, if there are no questions, let us go ahead. Dear colleagues, Chžan Цайджин's thesis received 2 references from institutions and organizations with comments that were handed out to you at the beginning of the council meeting for consideration and analysis. In this regard, the floor is given to the applicant to respond to the comments given in the references. So, Chжan Цайджин, please, we're listening to you.
Okay, thank you, Professor. My sincere gratitude goes to dear Alexandra Popova, Doctor of Pedagogical Science, Professor, Dean of the Faculty of Foreign Languages of the State Institution, South Ukraine National Pedagogical University, named after Ushumsky, and to dear Natalia Buluhanova, Doctor of Pedagogical Science, Professor, Acting Head of Department of Pedagogy, Methodics, and Education Management of Kharkiv National University, named after Kalazin. For the thorough analysis of the thesis, regarding to the first comment, as for the use of terms private educational institutions of non-formal education institutions, private non-formal education institutions in a similar context, we agree that it would be beneficial to clearly define the concept of non-formal education institutions in order to avoid ambiguity and ensure consistency throughout the word. And as for the second comment, we agree that it would be worth analyzing and formulating the features of exactly foreign language training in terms of non-formal education in more detailed way. We would like to point out that the side features were reviewed by us, and we will take into account at developing and implementing the pedagogical conditions for the formation of pupils FCC in terms of non-formal education. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear members of the Specialized Academic Council, you have studied the applicant's thesis in detail, prepared and provided references in time. Therefore, we can proceed to the announcement of your conclusions on Chžan Цайджин's research. The floor is given to the official opponent, Olena Chekhatova, Doctor of Philosophy in Educational Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor. The opponent's reference is in the applicant's file in the Specialized Academic Council and is posted on the university's official website. So, Olena Andreevna, please state the main points of your reference.
Okay, thank you. Dear colleagues, dear applicant, the full text of my feedback was published on the university website, and therefore, rather than reading it in full, I will focus only on specific points and some debatable aspects of the work. So the topicality of Chžan Цайджин's dissertation lies in addressing urgent educational challenges caused by informatization of society, the transformation of educational approaches, and the growing demand for high-quality professional training. In today's globalized world, the development of foreign language communicative competence is crucial for enhancing individuals' competitiveness in the international labor market and for supporting sustainable development. The study is particularly relevant as it explores the role of non-formal education, which, due to its flexibility and adaptability, offers essential opportunities for learning foreign languages outside traditional educational institutions. Several positive points of the research include that Chžan Цайджин considered the issue of key competences formation and their role in the concept of lifelong learning. The author of the dissertation clarified the essence of main concepts of the research, in particular foreign language communicative competence, which is defined as the ability to interact effectively in a foreign language communicative environment using all components of language competence and appropriate communication strategies, and the concept of formation of foreign language communicative competence that is considered through the prism of creating an educational environment within non-formal educational institutions. Special attention is paid to the historical overview of the development of non-formal education in China and the analysis of the current state of the sphere and its role in the formation of students' foreign language communicative competence. This made it possible to identify the main directions for improving the learning process of non-formal education in China, as well as trace its relationship with the goal of sustainable development of society and trends in the digitalization of educational environment. They also identified the factors that influence the formation of quality educational environment in private non-formal educational institutions, studies current trends and their impact on the educational process in China, and determines the importance of competence-based approach of foreign language teaching. The research results have already been implemented in educational practices both in Ukraine and China. The credibility of the findings is supported by a wide range of research methods, a significant number of respondents, and successful practical implementation. The detailed review of the thesis text revealed no academic integrity violations, academic plagiarism, self-plagiarism, falsification, or fabrication. Evaluating Chжан Цайджин's dissertation as a whole, we find it appropriate to draw attention to several debatable aspects. First, in section 1.2, the author provides a comparative analysis of the concept of blended learning and hybrid learning, pages 60-63, and then returns to the interpretation of the term in section 2.3, pages 130-134. We believe that this material would have been more appropriately presented in a chapter devoted to theoretical aspects of foreign language communicative competence or the development of non-formal education. Second, the author has conducted a thorough analysis of the development of pupils' foreign language communicative competence in non-formal education in China, but in our opinion, the thesis would benefit from a comparative analysis with the experience of other countries with successful practices in the field of non-formal language education, which can expand the theoretical and practical findings of the study. Third, Chжан Цайджин paid particular attention to the issue of globalization and informatization of society, as well as the use of information and communication technologies in educational process, sections 1.2, 2.2. In particular, page 124, the author considers the potential of using electronic educational resources in the language field. We believe that the thesis would have benefited from an overview of the most commonly used digital tools for the development of foreign language communicative competence and an analysis of their functionality. Fourth, in section 3.1, Chжан Цайджин supports the choice of private non-formal education institutions in China for the experimental study and describes in detail the features of its work. In our opinion, it would be advisable to provide a more detailed justification for the choice of a private non-formal education institutions to participate in experimental study. Fifth, the text of dissertation contains some stylistic inaccuracies and misprints, pages 27, 58, 71, and that require editing, as well as inaccuracies in the use of some terms. These comments and suggestions are of recommendatory nature and do not significantly affect the quality of dissertation research. The study of the dissertation, Pupils' Foreign Communicative Competence Formation in Non-Formal Education based on the application of the People's Republic of China, leads to the conclusion that the research corresponds to the specialty 011, Education and Pedagogical Sciences, and meets the requirements for a dissertation submitted for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Specifically, it adheres to requirements outlined in paragraph 6, 7, 8, and 9 of the procedure for awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and annulment of decision of one-time specialized academic councils of higher education institutions or research institutions on the award of the degree of Doctor of Philosophy approved by the Cabinet of Ministers, Resolution number 44, January 12, 2022. The author deserves to be awarded the Doctor of Philosophy degree in Education and Pedagogy in Specialty Education and Pedagogical Sciences. Thank you.
We thank distinguished Olena Andreevna for the comprehensive reference. The floor is given to Chžan Цайджин to respond to the official opponent's comments, please.
Thank you, Professor. Honorable Associate Professor Olena Chekharatova, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the thorough analysis and review of my thesis and respond to the comments as follows. As for the first comment, we would like to give an explanation. In our work, according to the research objectives, subsection 1.2 provide a theoretical analysis of blended learning and hybrid learning within the context of non-formal education, highlighting their flexibility and a learner-centered approach. While subsection 2.3 shifted the focus to practical applications, demonstrating how our model can effectively support the development of communicative competence through interactive, multimodal, and collaborative learning strategies. We are grateful for your recommendation and consider it for our further research. And we agree with the second comment. In comparing our experience with that of other countries was not the primary aim of our work. We appreciate the suggestion. Including international perspectives would indeed enrich the future research and deepen the theoretical and practical insight. As for the third comment, we partially agree and would like to give an explanation. While we fully recognize the value of exploring broader range of digital tools, we try to highlight key trends and representative examples relevant to the context of non-formal education in China. In Chapter 3, we give examples of using exact electronic educational sources of language orientation and described their facilities in practical plan. We agree that it would be beneficial to systemize digital tools which are the most commonly used in practice of language learning in China and incorporate this analysis into the theoretical chapters of the work. As for the comment 4, we partially agree that it would be advisable to provide a more detailed justification for selecting a private institutions of non-formal education for the experimental study. But the Chosen School New Oriental Education Technology Group is the largest and most prominent institution of this kind in China. Moreover, the selection was also influenced by a direct request from this institution to implement the research findings, which provided a valuable opportunity to apply the study in a real-world setting. We would like to emphasize that the majority of non-formal education in China are private ones. We totally agree with comment 5. Thank you for your valuable comments and recommendations. We will take them into account in our future work. Thank you very much.
Olena Andreevna, are you satisfied with the applicant's reply?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm satisfied.
Thank you. The floor is given to the official opponent, Oksana Volushina, candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor. The opponent's reference is in the applicant's file in the Specialized Academic Council and is posted on the university's official website. So, Oksana Vasilyevna, please state the key aspects of your reference.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to act as an opponent of the presented research. Dear members of a Specialized Academic Council, those present, allow me not to announce the full content of the review since it's already presented on the university website. In the modern globalized world, knowledge of foreign language is a key factor in the successful communication, professional development, and intercultural interaction. The author's argument argumentation of the study presented in the normative analysis of this problem, the degree of development of this issue in modern science allows us to assert that the study is timely, relevant, and promising for the theory and practice of education. The scientific apparatus of the study meets the requirement of works submitted for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and is aimed at solving the task set. The dissertation clearly defined the goal, object, subject, and objectives of the study, which became the basis for successful scientific research, and qualitatively influenced the results obtained. The provisions of the scientific novelty, theoretical and practical significance of the research and supported by the content of the work. The publication fully reflects the content of the dissertation research. Discussion points and comments on the content of the dissertation. In general, will positively assessing the scientific and practical significance of the result obtained by the dissertation, we note that some points are of debatable nature. The first, in her natures, the doctoral applicant uses the main provision of the European Commission, recommendation of international institution on education for sustainable development, in particular the formation of foreign communicative competence of education seekers. The work would have benefited significantly if there had been also presented the provision of the legislation recommendation of the Asian region, and in particular of PRC, which are related to the subject of the research. Second, in table 2.1, the author, based on the study's analysis, summarizes the pedagogical conditions that affect the quality of the formation of foreign communication competence. In our opinion, this analysis would be more visual and generalized if the subject of research and target audience for the formation of the said competence were presented. Third, substating the theoretical foundation of the research problem, the author identifies a number of methodological approach, systemic, synergistic, activity-oriented, axiological, and competency-based approach, which are the basis for the formation of foreign communication competence of students of private educational institution of the PRC. At the same time, it would be worth paying attention to the use of cultural, personal, and individual approach, because in the text of dissertation, the research repeatedly refers to the characteristic of these approaches. Fourth, the text of dissertation contains descriptive repetitions characteristic of the same pedagogical phenomena in different paragraphs of the dissertation. For example, the characteristics of the features of the organization of the educational process in the post-industrial society and the characteristic of blended learning are presented in both the first and second chapters. Fifth, since the dissertation authors has conducted in-depth research of the content and procedural features of the formation of foreign communicative competence of students using the example of People's Republic of China. In our opinion, it would be worthwhile to publish independent methodological development based on the result of scientific work. This would enhance the practical significance of the research and would be useful for domestic educators. And the work contains spelling, punctuation, and grammatical errors. There are certain comments regarding the formatting quotes. The comments and wishes expressed are not debatable nature and do not significantly affect the general scientific and theoretical level of dissertation work, and do not reduce the overall positive impression of the quality of research performed, but are only intended to focus attention on a more detailed study of individual problems of pedagogical science and practice. Study of the work and published scientific works give reason to draw the following conclusion. Chжан Цайджин dissertation work, Pupils Foreign Communicative Competence Formation in Non-Formal Education based on the application on the People's Republic of China, is an independent and completed scientific research which in terms of relevance and content, volume and quality of design, completeness of presentation and novelty of its main result in publication corresponds to the level of thesis for obtains the scientific degree of Doctor Philosophy, namely requirements of clauses 6, 7, 8, and 9 of the procedure for awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and revoking the decision of the one-time Specialized Academic Council of the Higher Education Institution, Research Institution on awarding of the Doctor of Philosophy degree approved by the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukrainian number 44 of the 12th of January 2022, and its author, Chžan Цайджин, deserves to be awarded the Doctor of Philosophy degree in the field of knowledge, education, pedagogy in specialty 011, educational, pedagogical, scientific. Thank you.
We thank distinguished Oksana Vasilyevna for the comprehensive reference. The floor is given to Chžan Цайджин to respond to the official opponent's comments. Please.
Thank you, Professor. Honorable Associate Professor Oksana Vasilyevna, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the thorough analysis and review of my thesis and respond to the questions as follows. Regarding to comment 1, we agree that including more recommendations and legislative provisions from the Asian region, particularly in the PRC, would have enriched the research. However, the study aimed at to utilize international and regional documents in line with the specific objectives and scope of the dissertation. While not all regional recommendations were incorporated, key documents relevant to our research tasks were considered. For example, Education Law of the People's Republic of China, National Medium and Long-Term Education Reform and Development Plan outline, and modernization of education in China. So, we partially agree with the second comment and give the following explanation. While presenting the specific subject of the research and clearly defining the target audience could indeed enhance the clarity of and focus of the analysis in Table 2.1, our intention was to highlight a range of approaches to defining pedagogical conditions. This allows us to extract key components relevant to the development of communicative competence from multiple perspectives. We believe this broader approach adds value by showcasing the diversity of educational strategies and practice. Though we appreciate the comment and will consider further refinement in our future work. Let us give the explanation to the comment 3, with which we partially agree. We observed and considered the mentioned methodological approaches from different angles. In section 1.1, we aimed to provide a broader understanding of these methodological frameworks within a global context, positioning them as a fundamental umbrella for the entire research. This perspective allowed us to establish a comprehensive theoretical base for the study. In section 2.2, we focused on implementing only those approaches that align most closely with our specific research model and objectives. While we acknowledge the relevance of cultural, personal, and individual approaches, especially given their implicit presence in subsections of the work, our emphasis was placed on the approaches most directly supporting the formation of pupils' FCC in the context of non-formal education in the PRC. And regarding to the fourth comment, we partially agree with this point, and we acknowledge that this may have led to a descriptive overlap in some places. However, we would like to point out that some repetition in the text was intentional to ensure coherence between the analytical and theoretically practical parts of the work. In particular, the characteristics of the educational progress in a post-industrial society and blended learning were revised in both chapters to maintain continuity and to emphasize how these concepts evolve from theoretical framing to practical application. And regarding to comment 5, we totally agree and take it as a task of our future work. We are preparing to publish the materials as methodological recommendations for teachers in non-formal education institutions. Based on the findings of this research, we believe it will be highly valuable to create a standalone methodological resources, such as publication. Such a publication would enhance the practical significance of the research and serve as a valuable tool for domestic educators. And we totally agree with the sixth comment as for the spelling, punctuation, grammatical errors, and formatting of quotes, and we will take them into consideration in our following work. Thank you for your valuable comments and recommendations, which we will take into account in our future work. Thank you very much.
Oksana Vasilyevna, are you satisfied with the applicant's reply?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now the floor is given to the reviewer, Anna Polyakova, candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor. The reviewer's reference is in the applicant's file in the Specialized Academic Council and is posted on the official university's website. Anna Anatolyevna, we ask you to provide a brief conclusion on Chжан Цайджин's work, please.
Thank you. Dear members of the Specialized Academic Council, the applicant, I will present the review in a shortened form. The relevance of the topic of the dissertation research is due to global development of technologies, digitalization, openness of informational sources, the need to create educational environments in educational institutions to develop key competences and relevant skills in students. In particular, the development of communicative competence and in a globally connected international open world, foreign communicative competence. The development of non-formal education, which is becoming a more popular additional component and is already competing with formal education. Given the outlined trends in education, the growing needs to find ways to develop students' foreign communicative competence, taking into account the possibilities of non-formal education, the topic chosen by the applicant is relevant. The main scientific provisions and conclusions formatted in dissertation the sufficiently substantiated this follows from the research methodology and the results obtained. The methodology and select methods of scientific knowledge and used adequately in accordance with the task set, the purpose and the logic of this study. The analysis of the content of the dissertation and to publication gives ground to thought that the results of the dissertation research have a scientific novelty in the search for ways to form the foreign communicative competence of students of secondary school. The technology dissertation research has theoretical and practical significance. The theoretical significance of the research results is that the scientific task during which the scientific, theoretical, and methodological basis of the outlined subject area has been improved. The practical significance of the research results is the development of methodological recommendations. Taking together the scientific and practical results of Chжан Цайджин's dissertation, complement and develop modern concept, scientific and methodological approach of pedagogy in the formation of students' foreign communicative competence in the context of non-formal education. The theoretical and practical value of certain results is confirmed by the implementation in the educational process in Ukrainian and China's education institution. The main results provision of science novelty obtained in the course of the dissertation research of Chжан Цайджин are highlighted in certain scientific works. Their publication and testing at conferences meet the established requirement. The Chжан Цайджин dissertation is written in Ukrainian at a high theoretical and methodological level, has a clear structure. The structure and content of the work fully reflect the main provision of the dissertation. The design of the thesis meets the established requirement. In general, while positively assessing the theoretical and practical significance of dissertation, we should pay attention to certain discussion points. 1. Subsection 1.2, the author relies on the terminological system which was built to consider the essence of the concepts of communicative competence, foreign communicative competence, and their characteristics, page 40. It should be noted that the table 1.1 presented by author cannot be attributed to terminological system, since it does not fully reflect the requirements for the terminological system. In particular, the requirements of the terms completeness and structuring, reflection of the relation between terms, genus, species, all, part, case, effect, object, sign, and other logical relationship of substantive nature. 2. The work uses the terms private educational international of China, non-formal educational institutions, private non-formal education institutions in similar context. In our opinion, it will be advisable to add and establish a definition of the concept of non-formal educational institutions. 3. In subsection 2.2, the technological aspects of the implementation of pedagogical conditions, the revealed, page 124. In our opinion, the description of the technological component is presented in a too general way. It would be advisable to reveal which interactive electronic educational resource of language orientation, online platforms and blended learning tools can be used. 4. In subsection 1.2, page 60-64, and subsection 2.1, page 130-134, the definition of the concept of blended learning, hybrid learning, and their difference are considered. In our opinion, it would be worth consideration on the theoretical aspects of the analysis of the key concepts of chapter 1, and then in chapter 2 to include the defined concepts of the criteria of the effectiveness of the implementation of pedagogical conditions for the pupils' formation of foreign communicative competence in non-formal education institutions of the PRC according to the development model. 5. When describing the pedagogical experiments in subsection 3.1 and 3.2, there is inaccuracy or incomplete data in the description of the participant sample. Since it is stated that 46 English teachers were involved in the preliminary survey, page 148. However, there is no description of the respondents who participated in the formation stage of the experiment and expert assessment according to the colorimetric model. At the same time, the result of the rating of teachers of the control and experimental groups include 28 participants each. In addition, the effectiveness of the experimental study would have been greater if several private institutions of non-formal education and a large number of participants had been involved. 6. Subsections 3.1 and 3.2 highlight the stages and progress of the pedagogical experiment. In particular, the content of the practice-oriented training for teachers facilitators is disclosed page 167-170, which is one of the components of the implementation of pedagogical conditions for the formation of foreign communicative competence of the pupils' private non-formal educational institution in the PRC. At the same time, in our opinion, it will be advisable to cover in more detail the implementation of the other aspects of implementation of the pedagogical conditions, organization, and technologization. These remarks do not diminish the importance and scientific of the research. Overall assessment of the work. Chжан Цайджин's dissertation on the topic pupils' foreign communicative competence formation in non-formal educational based on the application of the People's Republics of China is performed at a sufficiently high scientific level, is a completed qualification scientific work, has theoretical and practical significance and relation to the problem of forming foreign communicative competence of students in non-formal education. In the course of the study, the task was solved, the goal was achieved. This work corresponds to the specialty 011 Educational Pedagogical Sciences and requirement for the thesis preparation approved by the order of the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine of 12 January 2017, number 40, and supra 6.7 of the procedure for awarding the degree of Doctors of Philosophy and cancellation of the decision of the 1 time specialized academic council of the higher educational institution, scientific institution of award of the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. And Chжан Цайджин deserves to be awarded the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the specialty 011 Education Pedagogical Sciences. Thank you.
We thank distinguished Hanna Anatolievna for the comprehensive reference. The floor is given to the applicant to respond to reviewers' comments. Please.
Thank you, Professor. Honorable Associate Professor Hanna Polyakova, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the thorough analysis and review of my thesis and respond to the questions as follows. We agree with the first comment. However, we would like to point out that our intention was to identify and extract the core elements of the concept communicative competence and foreign communicative competence to form a foundation for their use in our study. Therefore, the table 1.1 presents only selected elements of the terminological system built by us. And regarding to comment 2, let us give an explanation. In the context of this research, the primary focus was placed on development of FCC within the framework of non-formal education. The terms private education institutions of China, non-formal education institutions, and the private non-formal education institutions were used in a similar context to reflect the specific characteristics of the institution involved in the study. We agree that it would be beneficial to clearly define the concept of non-formal education institutions in order to avoid ambiguity and ensure consistency through the work. We have to emphasize that according to the 2022 statistical bulletin of the Ministry of Education in China, there are approximately 93,000 private training institutions in China, accounting for over 95% and the absolute majority of all non-formal education institutions. And we partially agree with the third comment. In subsection 2.2, we aimed to outline the technological aspect of implementing the identified pedagogical conditions. We acknowledge that the description of the technological competence may appear too general. In Chapter 3, we give examples of using exact electronic education resources of a language orientation and described their facilities in practical plan. We agree that a more detailed and systemized presentation of interactive electronic educational resources of language learning focus would enhance the practical value of the subsection 2.2. This would also contribute to a more comprehensive and applicable understanding of the technological strategies of FCC formation. And we agree with the fourth comment and acknowledge that this would provide a more coherent structure and a better support model developed for the formation of FCC among pupils in non-formal education institutions in the PRC. And regarding to the fifth comment, we agree with the remark on the incomplete description of the participant sample and are giving the following explanations. There were a different purpose and focus of the formation second stage and the final third stage of the pedagogical experiment. Therefore, there are different participants samples involved in different stages. There were 46 respondents involved in the preliminary survey, English teachers who are from branches in different regions of the New Oriental Education Technology Group, which is the biggest institution of non-formal education in China. In the final part of the study, we included 56 teachers from different branches of our school, split into 28 in the control group and another 28 in the experimental group. Well, we recognize the importance of clarity regarding our choice of respondents. We believe that emphasizing the practical application of our model will be more beneficial for the study's objectives. As for the remark on the involving several private institutions of non-formal education and a larger number of participants, we agree and take it as a prospect in our future research. And as for the comment 6, we agree and are committed to addressing all aspects of pedagogical experiments comprehensively. Subsection 3.1 and 3.2 indeed outline the stages and progress of the experiment, particularly focusing on the content of the practice-oriented training for teacher facilitators. This training is crucial for implementing the pedagogical conditions aimed at enhancing pupils' FCC in non-formal education institutions in the PRC. However, we agree that providing a more detailed explanation of the implementation of other aspects of these pedagogical conditions is specifically the organizational and technological components would strengthen our study. By elaborating on these areas, we can offer a more holistic view of the experiment and its broader implications. Thank you for your valuable comments and recommendations, which we will take into account in our future work. Thank you very much.
Anna Anatolyevna, are you satisfied with the applicant's reply? Anna Anatolyevna?
Yes, I'm satisfied.
Okay, thank you. The floor is given to the reviewer, Irina Hontarenko, candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor. The review's reference is in the applicant's file in the Specialized Academic Council and is posted on the university's official website. Irina Serhievna, please give a short conclusion on the applicant's work.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Dear Chairman, dear Chžan Цайджин, dear colleagues, the full review is on the university's official website, and I would like to tell about the main points of the thesis. Detailed examination of the content of Chžan Цайджin's thesis gives grounds to assert that proposed developments have scientific novelty and attest to the personal contribution of the applicant to the development of theoretical and methodological provisions and recommendations for pupils' foreign communicative competence formation in non-formal education. The thesis was carried out at a high methodological level using a set of modern research methods. The main scientific provisions and conclusions formulated in the dissertation logically follow from the results obtained and are sufficiently substantiated, testify to the fulfillment of the tasks and achievement of the research goal, which corresponds to the set of tasks of the dissertation. The scientific novelty of the obtained result lies in the substantiating the pedagogical conditions for the formation of foreign communicative competence of students of non-formal education in China. These conditions include a set of factors. The first, purposeful theoretical and methodological training of non-formal education teachers to form FCC. The second, development and use of dynamic, interactive information educational environment aimed at organizing the educational process based on blended learning. And the third, selection and involvement of a set of means of stimulating students to dialogue. In addition, the thesis is the first to theoretically substantiate a model for implementing pedagogical conditions for forming pupils' foreign communicative competence in the educational process of non-formal education in China. The author also developed methodological recommendations for implementing pedagogical conditions to develop pupils' foreign communicative competence in non-formal education. The conceptual and categorical apparatus was also clarified. In particular, the concept of foreign communicative competence and formation of foreign communicative competence were specified. The understanding of the concepts of blended learning and hybrid learning was clarified in the course of the application in the educational process of learning and teaching a foreign language in private educational institution of the People's Republic of China. The third chapter of the thesis highlights the result of the experimental work within the framework of the study. An additional polymetrics model for determining the level of students' FCC formation has been developed, which allows teachers to assess the level of foreign language communicative competence formation according to the CEFR levels, where the factors and criteria were selected on the basis of the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. The introduction of the polymetric method of the experiment made it possible to obtain quantitative indicators of the effectiveness of implementing the developed pedagogical conditions in practice. The dissertation's conclusions are well-structured and logically substantiated, confirming that the researcher successfully achieved the study's objective. The practical value of the research is confirmed by its implementation in the educational process of higher education institutions. The study's findings have broad practical application. In particular, the dissertation materials can be integrated into the courses of general pedagogy, the history of pedagogy, higher education pedagogy, as well as modern and innovative educational technologies. These materials will contribute to improving the quality of training for future education professionals and enhancing the management competences of educators. Chжан Цайджin's thesis contains abstract introductions through chapters, conclusions, list of reference, and appendices. The work is presented in scientific style. Its content has a clear logical sequence of tasks which reveal the stages of achieving the goal. In general, assessing Chжan Цайджin's thesis positively, I consider to draw attention to certain discussion points. First, subsection 1.1 pays considerable attention to the theoretical aspects of the formation of foreign communicative competence in globalized society and conduct a thorough analysis of the term foreign communicative competence. However, the work also dealt with communicative competence and communicative speech competence. It would be worthwhile to clarify these terms at the beginning of the subsection and determine their features in the context of the study. The second, subsection 1.2 highlights the development of non-formal education in the context of globalization and informatization of society. In our opinion, it would be advisable to expand the analysis of peculiarities of non-formal education in the context of language training and emphasize the specificity compared to formal education. The third, subsection 1.3 examines the features of the formation of foreign communicative competence of students in the People's Republic of China, but the role of state policy and cultural characteristics in the development of this competence is not sufficiently disclosed. It would be advisable to supplement the consideration of regulatory aspects and socio-cultural factors that influence the process of learning foreign language in China. In subsection 2.1, which substantiates the pedagogical conditions for the formation of foreign language communicative competence of students of non-formal education institution of People's Republic of China, the dissertation author conducted a thorough analysis of theoretical research on the essence and components of pedagogical conditions as a component of the laws of the educational process. In our opinion, it would be advisable to expand this analysis with the results of experimental investigations on the effectiveness of the implementation of pedagogical conditions. And the fifth, the text of the work contains some stylistic and grammatical inaccuracies, which affects the quality of the presentation style. At the same time, I believe that discussion comments have a debatable nature and do not decrease the general positive assessment as for the theoretical significant value for the thesis. It is a relevant, independent, and completed research. So the conclusion, this thesis corresponds totally to special educational pedagogical sciences, and the author, Chжан Цайджин, deserves to be obtained the Doctor of Philosophy degree in the field of knowledge, education, pedagogy, in specialty 011, educational pedagogical sciences. Thank you.
We thank distinguished Irina Sergeyevna for the comprehensive reference. The floor is given to the applicant to respond to the reviewer's comments. Please.
Thank you, Professor. Honorable Associate Professor Irina Pontarenko, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the thorough analysis and review of my thesis, and respond to the questions as follows. As for the first comment, we acknowledge the need to clearly distinguish between foreign communicative competence and communicative speech competence. We agree that it would be worthwhile to clarify these terms at the beginning of the subsection and determine their features in the context of the study. And we agree with the second comment that it would be advisable to expand the analysis of the peculiarities of non-formal education in the context of language training in the theoretical part of the work. We definitely have reviewed these peculiarities, despite the fact that we have not specified them in this subsection. We would like to emphasize that we paid attention to these peculiarities and took them into account, developing and implementing the pedagogical conditions of the formation of said competence in terms of non-formal education. And we agree with the third comment. While state policy and cultural characteristics are crucial in this process, we acknowledge that these aspects have not been sufficiently detailed. In fact, the influence of regulatory frameworks and social cultural factors on foreign language education in China is quite high. We highlighted the analysis of key regulatory aspects in the introduction and the subsection 1.2. However, due to the scope and structure of this particular section 1.3, we were not yet able to address these elements comprehensively. And regarding to the fourth comment, we agree that it would be beneficial to expand in subsection 2.1 the theoretical analysis on the essence and the components of pedagogical conditions with the result of existing experiment investigations on the effectiveness of their implementation. Regarding to comment 5, we agree that ensuring clarity, coherence, and academic rigor in our writing is essential, and we will address these issues in our future work. Thank you for your valuable comments and recommendation, which we will take into account in our future work. Thank you very much.
Irina Sergeyevna, are you satisfied with the applicant's reply?
Yes, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, let us proceed to the discussion of the Council's draft decision on awarding the Doctor of Philosophy degree. I propose to include all the comments expressed in the references in the Council's decision. Are there any objections? There are none. Dear members of the Specialized Academic Council, is there anything you would like to add to your previous statements, please? Okay. If everything has already been stated, then for my part, as the chairman of the council, I would say a few words concerning the thesis by Chžan Цайджин on theme pupils' foreign communicative competence formation in non-formal education based on the application of the People's Republic of China. So, the work has been performed at a high scientific level. It is a full-fledged, pedagogically valuable research, which can be only positively rated. The content of the thesis corresponds to the specialty 011, Educational Pedagogical Sciences, and the quality of theoretical and methodological developments meets the level of thesis for obtaining the scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy. The thesis theme is relevant and fully disclosed. The goal of the work has been achieved, and its results contain scientific novelty. I'd like to emphasize some positive aspects of the work. This study is devoted to the topical problem, which is solved both at the theoretical and practical levels. In particular, the author has created pedagogical conditions for effective forming pupils' foreign language communicative competence within non-formal education, developed a model and methodological recommendations for their implementation in educational establishments. Therefore, I also believe that Chžan Цайджин's thesis, in its content, meets the requirements for thesis for obtaining the scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy, namely the provisions of clauses 6, 7, 8, and 9 of the procedure for awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, and revoking the decision of the one-time Specialized Academic Council of the Higher Education Establishment Research Institution on awarding the Doctor of Philosophy degree approved by the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine number 44 of the 12th of January 2022, and its author, Chžan Цайджин, deserves to be awarded the Doctor of Philosophy degree in the field of knowledge 01 Education Pedagogy and speciality ХНЕУ Educational Pedagogical Sciences. Who among those present also would like to speak? So, if there are no more statements, then we can move on to the applicant's final word. Чжан Цайджин, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor. Honorable Mr. Chairman, members of the Specialized Academic Council, those present, first and foremost, please allow me to express my deep gratitude to Volodymyr Ponomarenko, the Rector of Simon Kuznets Kharkov National University of Economics, Doctor of Economic Science, Professor, Honored Worker of Science and Technology of Ukraine, and to the Department of Postgraduate Studies for the condition created for studying, preparing, and identifying my thesis. Thank you very much. Then the heartfelt gratitude should be conveyed to my supervisor, Lyudmila Glizin, Doctor of Pedagogical Science, Professor, for valuable advice on scientific research, for her support, scientific experience, and understanding, which helped me so much at all stages of carrying out research work. Next, I would like to express my gratitude to Alexander Shumsky, the Chairman of the Specialized Academic Council, Doctor of Pedagogical Science, Professor. And dear opponents, Olena Tekharatova, PhD in Educational Pedagogical Science and Associate Professor, and Oksana Voloshina, candidate of Pedagogical Science, Professor, for their attention, thorough analysis, and constructive comments to the thesis and recommendations for further research. Thank you very much. Furthermore, I would like to express my gratitude to the reviewers, Hanna Polyakova, candidate of Pedagogical Science, Associate Professor, and Elena Pontarenko, candidate of Pedagogical Science, Associate Professor, for their time, attention, and support, for their in-depth analysis, constructive comments on the thesis, and instructions that I will take into account in my future research. Last but not least, I want to express my gratitude to all individuals and organizations that send feedback on my thesis. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Чжан Цайджин, thank you very much for pleasant words. Dear colleagues, now it's time to vote. According to the current procedure, the one-time Specialized Academic Council makes a decision by open voting, during which each member of the council openly speaks up for or against awarding the Doctor of Philosophy degree. So, who would like to start? The official opponent, Olena Tekharatova, Doctor of Philosophy in Educational Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor at the Department of Practice of English Oral and Written Speech at Grigorij Skovoroda, Kharkiv National Pedagogical University. Olena Andreevna, please.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, dear Chžan Цайджин, I want to know the dissertation presented today is a comprehensive study distinguished by its relevance, scientific novelty, practical significance, and the author demonstrates a high level of theoretical competence, basing their conclusions on the wide range of scientific sources and imperial materials. And this work makes an essential contribution to the development of educational sciences, and its conclusions and recommendations hold the potential for application at the national and international level. Thus, the thesis by Chжan Цайджин on the topic of pupils' foreign communicative competence formation in non-formal education based on application of the People's Republic of China meets all the requirements for a PhD thesis in terms of its content, and its author, Chжan Цайджин, deserves to be awarded the Doctor of Philosophy degree in the field of knowledge education and pedagogy in specialty 011 education pedagogical sciences. I vote for.
We thank esteemed Olena Andreevna. The official opponent, Oksana Volushina, candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor of the Department of Pedagogy and Educational Management at Vinnytsia Mikhailo Kotyabinski State Pedagogical University. Oksana Vasilyevna, please.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, dear Chžan Цайджин, research is timely, relevant, and promising for the theory and practice of education. China has a unique experience as the state actively implements effective methods of teaching foreign languages, which can be useful for other countries. Studying the process of forming students' foreign language communicative competence within the framework of informal education, using the example of China, allows us to assess the effectiveness of alternative teaching methods and offer recommendations for their adaptation in other countries. Study of the content of dissertation gives grounds to assess originally, completeness, independence, scientific and practical significance. The scientific apparatus of research meets the requirements for work submitted for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, and it's aimed at solving the task set. The provision of scientific novelty, theoretical and practical significance of the research are supported by the content of the work. The dissertation is characterized by unity of content, needs and requirements for its design, and takes into account peculiarities of the scientific style. The dissertation publication fully reflects the content of the dissertation research. Chžan Цайджин, the thesis by Chžan Цайджин on the topic Pupils' Foreign Communicative Competence Formation in Non-Formal Education based on the application of the People's Republic of China meets all the requirements for a PhD thesis in terms of its content, and its author, Chžan Цайджин, deserves to be awarded the Doctor of Philosophy degree in the field of knowledge, education, pedagogy in specialty 011, educational, pedagogical, scientific. I vote for.
We thank our respected Oksana Vasilyevna. The reviewer, Anna Polyakova, candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor at the Department of Pedagogy, Foreign Philology and Translation, Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics. Anna Anatolyevna, please.
Thank you. I believe that the dissertation by Chžan Цайджин is a completed dissertation research, have a scientific novelty in the search of ways to form to foreign communicative competence of students of secondary school in People's Republics of China. Meets all the requirement for a PhD thesis. And I think the Chžan Цайджин deserve to award the Doctor of Philosophy in specialty 011, Educational Pedagogical Science. I vote for.
We thank our respected Anna Anatolyevna. The reviewer, Irina Hondarenko, candidate of Pedagogical Sciences, Associate Professor at the Department of Pedagogy, Foreign Philology and Translation, Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics. Irina Sergeyevna, please.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to stress that the thesis by Chжан Цайджин on seeing pupils' foreign communicative competence formation in non-formal education based on the application of the People's Republic of China really meets all the requirements, and its author Chžan Цайджин deserves to be awarded the Doctor of Philosophy degree in the field of knowledge education pedagogy in specialty 011, educational pedagogical sciences, and I vote for.
We thank our esteemed Irina Sergeyevna. And now, let me express my own opinion as the chairman of the council. Having analyzed the thesis and based on the defense, I can assert that the thesis by Chžan Цайджин on theme pupils' foreign communicative competence formation in non-formal education based on the application of the People's Republic of China meets all the requirements for a PhD thesis in terms of its content, and its author, Chžan Цайджин, deserves to be awarded the Doctor of Philosophy degree in the field of knowledge, L1 Education Pedagogy, in speciality L11 Educational Pedagogical Sciences. Therefore, I join my colleagues' opinion and also vote for. Thus, all the members of the Specialized Academic Council expressed a positive opinion on the results of Chžan Цайджин's research and voted for awarding her the Doctor of Philosophy degree in the field of knowledge, L1 Education Pedagogy, in speciality L11 Educational Pedagogical Sciences. Let us record this decision by raising your hands. So, those who are for awarding the PhD degree, please vote unanimously. Thus, based on the results of open voting, as well as on fulfilling the requirements of the procedure for awarding the Doctor of Philosophy degree and revoking the decision of one-time Specialized Academic Council of the higher education establishment, scientific institution, on awarding the Doctor of Philosophy degree, approved by the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine of the 12th of January 2022, number 44, the Specialized Academic Council, DF64 L55 L60, awards Chžan Цайджин the Doctor of Philosophy degree in the field of knowledge, L1 Education Pedagogy, in speciality L11 Educational Pedagogical Sciences. Dear Chžan Цайджин, we sincerely congratulate you on this new, well-deserved status, which is a very important milestone in your academic career, and wish you success in your further research work. At this point, the meeting of the Specialized Academic Council is considered closed. Thank you.
Thank you.